What's up, nerd fam? I hope you're doing good today. Today, we're going to be talking about some more black characters. Of course, we're still in this series, but it's going to be with DC. Now, one thing to know about DC is one of the biggest perpetrators of what I was talking about in the last video when it comes to like race swapping. Remember I mentioned Superman, Flash, Batwoman, and even like a Batman type of guy. And I also forgot, they also did it with Black Canary in the Birds of Prey movie. And it's like you switch her race to still put her in the back seat, to still put her back there and not use her powers all the way to the end of the movie. Like, what kind of sense does that make? But yeah, the whole point of this video and other ones are to showcase original characters that already exist, to show we don't need like the sloppy seconds. Just give us the original characters that we already have. Put them to the forefront, right? So yeah, let's get right into these characters. I will say though, DC seems to be a little short on the black woman front. That's something they definitely do have, but in comparison to Marvel and some of the contemporaries, I believe they're on the short. So if there's anything we gotta hold them accountable to, it's that. But let's get to it. All right, so let's start with a really popular one actually. So let's talk about John Stewart, the Green Lantern. So he's actually DC's first black superhero. Now he was supposed to be Hal Jordan's replacement after Guy Gardner got hurt. Hal Jordan actually didn't really like him because he had like a authority, like he didn't like authority figures. But after a mission that involved like a racist politician staging his own assassination, Hal Jordan took a liking to him because he saw like this guy actually adjust. He didn't just not like authority figures, like he has reason for it. Now he is an architect. So when it comes to his powers, he does have the same powers as the rest of the Green Lanterns. Be able to fly, has super strength, and can build really cool constructs with the ring. However, because he's an architect, his constructs are really detailed. He builds his from the insides and out, and you can even see like the nuts and bolts that he has in every single creation that he makes, which is really cool. Now, a lot of people I know who watch like the Justice League cartoons, a lot of people thought that he was like the default Justice League, and I guess that's really cool when it comes to how he's represented in mainstream cartoons, which is awesome, but there are Green Lanterns before him. However, he might be probably the most popular, especially going from the 2000s and on. However, if you like read comic books, you know how Jordan did a lot of the heavy lifting pretty much for everyone that was there. But he's an awesome character. He's also, I mean, besides having like the, you know, what's really needed for a Green Lantern to have like an indomitable will, he's also got like crazy compassion even for his enemies. And that's what allowed him to even go into the Indigo Corps when it came to Brightest Days. I mean, then we can probably have a whole other discussion to talk about him being able to cross over into another corps as well. But yeah, there goes John Stewart. So there's supposed to be a Green Lantern Corps movie as well. So it's kind of worth mentioning that I know John Stewart's supposed to be in that. Actually, a couple of them, not supposed to be just one Green Lantern. It's supposed to be maybe John Stewart and Guy Gardner. I really want to see how that works. I really want to know what the casting is going to be. Matter of fact, let me know in the comments who you think should play John Stewart in a movie if they were to make it. So the next character we're going to talk about was also made pretty popular by a cartoon, and that's Static. Now Static is from Dakota City, where he went to school. He was actually like a straight A student, like pretty much a nerd, loved science, but he was also getting picked on a lot by a lot of teenagers there. After he got picked on by one of his bullies and really got beaten up pretty bad, he pretty much made up his mind he was going to go and shoot him in the middle of like a place where they meet. Like pretty much the gangs were gonna meet up and have a fight, and he knew about it, so he was gonna take a gun over there and shoot him. But obviously at the end, he was like, you know what, I'm not gonna even do this. He threw the gun away. However, it was too late. The police came and started throwing this gas they thought was gonna like track anyone who escaped from trying to get arrested, but instead it was actually some radioactive gas that mutated the genes of everyone who was there, which was pretty crazy, right? Now his powers are described as being a superconductor electromagnetism, which literally means that he controls electricity and magnetism at the same time. So not only can he emit electricity from his body, but he can also control the magnetism of things. He can also do electrokinesis, which means he can lift stuff up with electricity, move it across. He can also sense when electricity is in like a further area, so he can like literally look in like an abandoned area and tell if it's hot or not, like depending on if electricity is actually there. And he uses science a lot to solve his problems on the battlefield. He's also been a member of the Teen Titans, and in his comics, quite a few characters have come from that, the Big Bang, they called it, right? It was actually a group of people called Blood Syndicate. Look out for that. We're definitely going to talk about them later on. They're a very, very important group of characters. It's also worth to mention he can speak quite a few languages, and once again, very, very intelligent. I love that about him. Now, the next character we're going to talk about has very similar powers, but is a vastly different character altogether. That hero is Jefferson Pierce, or Black Lightning, as you may know. Now, he also has a show on CW right now, which is pretty damn accurate. His story is he was actually in Metropolis. He wound up coming back to Suicide Slum, which is literally like just a slums inside of Metropolis, after his father, Alvin Pierce, he was a journalist, he actually died. Now, in the beginning, he actually was a decathlete, so he was like super athletic. He was actually taught to fight by his father, and Peter Gamby was actually a person who showed him how to harness his metahuman gene, which is a big difference between him and Static, is that he was actually born with it. He also has two daughters who inherited that, and that would be Thunder and Lightning in the comics, so they inherit his gene as well. Now, he also fights against this organization called the 100, and they're led by Tobias Whale. So a lot of this is actually, in the CW, they actually are very comic book accurate, so that's really good to hear. Now, a lot of people are like, what's the difference between both of them? I think it's really in their application. He definitely uses it to augment his physical abilities. Like, he is a super athlete, and he's actually very intelligent as well. What's really cool is that he has like the whole family unit. Like, he's already got a wife, he's got two daughters, and he's also juggling that, and also trying to figure out like the guilt that he has over his father, and trying to figure out if he's living up to be the man that his father wanted him to be. So, once again, a pretty nuanced character. It is funny to mention, though, that originally he was supposed to be a character called Black Bomber, which was written in the comics as a white racist who, every time he got stressed, would turn into a black superhero. Yeah, let that sink in. So I'm kind of glad we're here now, right? Yeah. Now, before we get into another character that was made pretty popular modern day by cartoons, I want to get into a personal favorite of mine. Her name is Vixen. Now, a couple of you might have seen her. She might have appeared as like Jon Stewart's girlfriend a couple of times in Justice League and a couple of other things too. However, there's actually much more to her. Now, Mari McCabe, she's a descendant of Tantu. He's actually a Ghanaian warrior who asked Anansi the Spider to make a totem so he can power all of his descendants with the power of the animal kingdom, right? Which a lot of you have seen her power set look like. So it got passed down through the descendants until it got to her mother. And her father was like a reverend back in West Africa. And his half-brother wanted the totem that was passed to him. So he killed her mother and her father. And then she wound up growing up in America with another relative. And she became a supermodel when she grew up, and always had it in her mind to go back to Africa to actually get the totem back, because her mother used to tell her tales about it, and she's like, that belongs to me. So she went back for her uncle, got the totem back, and became Vixen. Now, why I really love this character is because she's got so many different pieces to her. Like, she's good looking, she's a model, which makes her like, like this high fashion, and maybe almost you would think she'd be materialistic, but in the end, she's driven by something that's family oriented. And we get to see real life West African lore, which is not something that you ever see commonly in most comic books. So before you just writing her off and thinking that she just has like animal powers, like, look at her story. She's actually written very well, and she's pretty cool, and she's an original character, something that I really, really love. So check her out. All right, this next one is like a 2-for-1 special. It's Icon and Rocket. So let's start with Icon. Icon was actually an alien. He crash landed on Earth during times of slavery. And the first thing it did was search the immediate area for whatever life form was around. It was actually a slave at the time. They were in the American South. So he transformed his body into like a small black child. She found him, and she raised him as her own. So take it about 100 years, more than 100 years later, he's around, and he's pretty much like portraying his own descendant, because obviously he has longevity. He can live for a very long time. So he's a corporate lawyer. He's like super stiff, and one would consider, they were calling him like a sellout and stuff in the comics. And he also has like Republican views. Like, he's very, very conservative, right? Which is great only because it shows like diversity of thought as well. That's a very good thing. Not just how you look, but how you think has to be diverse as well. So going on with that, Rocket, who even though she's Icon's sidekick, is actually kind of the protagonist because she doesn't really have much drive. But then when she sees him use his powers to like take care of some people trying to rob his house, she's like, you need to use that to take care of Dakota. Yes, like this is the same Dakota that Static is from. So right after that, he creates a suit and also creates a belt for her that's made from his ship. So now she can fly. She has some super strength, and it's pretty cool. Now, what are his powers? Literally just about the same as Superman. I'm not sure if he has the same upper limits. I don't think he had, because nobody really has the same upper limits, right? But Superman, when he saw him, he was like, this guy is so strong that he thought he must have been a Kryptonian. He was like questioning him, and it was funny because he was like, no, I know about Krypton. We're not any of those people. Cut it out. All right, and that was pretty funny. But yeah, that's how strong he is. And he also has like energy beams he can shoot too and emit radiation, which is pretty crazy, right? But yeah, I think he's a really cool character. Rocket is also cool because their relationship is really intact. Like she's more liberal and he's literally a conservative. They literally a lot of times they argue, they don't even agree on half of the things. But when it comes to saving a day, that's when they really get together. And I think this is a really good thing. Please read it. And they are constantly going against the Blood Syndicate as well. And they've been members of the Justice League. So yeah, look them up. The next is going to be the guy that's on my shirt right now, and that's Cyborg. So Victor Stone, he has pretty much two origins. One is where his dad and his mom were scientists, and they were like experimenting with like with extra dimensional technology. And this big like gelatinous creature came in, killed his mom, and then it turned on Cyborg, and then it destroyed half his body, and then Silas Stone, his father, had to like fix them back together, and that was that. That's like the first origin. The other origin is what happened after the New 52, where he is playing football. He's a football star, has a whole bunch of scholarships, and he's kind of mad that his dad is not paying attention to him. Goes to the lab, throws a tantrum, and there's a mother box there. And while he's arguing with his father, the mother box actually explodes, and then destroys half of his body as well. And he's also infused with some of the technology. Silas Stone also used that technology to repair the rest of his body, and there's that. Okay, so Cyborg is cool, obviously, because he's super smart. He can plug into all types of extra-dimensional and interplanetary information. He can change his appendages to different weapons that he needs. It could be a projectile, or it could be something to bludgeon you with. He can fly, and he's also complicated because he is constantly trying to figure out what is he. Is he more man? Is he more machine? And sometimes it's the machine half. He's actually constantly fighting with it, like literally fighting with it, because sometimes he looks at the human side, like that's where I feel all the emotions, all the regret. Maybe I should just let the machine side take over. But he realizes, like, with the pain is also like joy, right? And that's actually really cool to see that dynamic in him. So he's also complicated. Unfortunately, he doesn't get the type of shine that he deserves, as seen in like the Justice League movie, which they're saying in a Snyder Cut he has a bigger part. I'm hoping that that's true, so we can see that. But once again, this is actually another character who was made pretty popular modern day by the Teen Titans show. So a lot of people who might have seen that, not Teen Titans Go, the first Teen Titans thing. And once again, he was a member of Teen Titans and even Young Justice, and currently he is in the Justice League. So he's gotten promoted throughout his publication years, which is awesome. This next one is actually a personal favorite. It's the last one as well, and that is Bronze Tiger. Now, Bronze Tiger actually starts off with he's in a novel called Dragon's Fist, which also starts like his friend Richard Dragon, that's Nova in Marvel. And also he appears in Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter, which is like the first DC comic they show up in. What's really cool about him is as a kid, his parents, someone's always breaking into somebody's house. I should have break in and kill them. He winds up killing them with a knife, and because of that, he has like a lot of residual rage, which he tries to get out with martial arts, and then later he turns to crime for a little bit. He goes to Asia, meets O Sensei, who also recruits Richard Dragon, and they become pretty much like a martial arts duo. They do a little bit of crime for a bit, but then they also join good which is like the global organization for organized defense, something weird like that. And he worked for some like scumbag named Ling, who while they're doing good, he's still like not necessarily the best guy. He's also had stints in League of Assassins and the Suicide Squad as well, which it's hinted that Idris Elba might be playing him in this new Suicide Squad movie, right? Now, what's really cool about him is that he is like the third best fighter in all of DC, Richard Dragon being number one, and then, well, he may be tied for second because Lady Shiva is considered like the second best fighter, and he went to a standstill with her, and he even got really close with Richard Dragon as well, which means that he's much better than Batman. If you were wondering, he actually whipped Batman's ass one time, like really, really badly in a comic book. So score for him. He's also complicated in terms of like him being a criminal and him having to deal with that. He's also had a really cool stint when he had a tiger head on for a while. That was like when he was like a criminal and stuff like that, and then he stopped. He's actually been played by Michael Jai White in the Arrowverse, which is appropriate seeing as how Michael Jai White has a pretty extensive martial arts background. And yeah, honestly, I think that's a character you should really look more into, especially if you love the hand-to-hand guys. He doesn't have any powers, but excellent when it comes to martial arts. Okay, nerd fan, well, this is the end of the video, but before I go, I really wanted to give a huge shout out to Dwayne McDuffie, who was the late Dwayne McDuffie, who wrote in a lot of these comics that I'm talking about and created Static, Icon, Rocket, and tons of other ones like Blood Syndicate, which we're going to talk about in the next video, and even some more that he created. He created the whole Dakota-verse, actually. He also wrote for Marvel a really cool comic named Damage Control, which was about this team of people who cleaned up after the messes of Heroes. But why I really wanted to bring him up was his thoughts. When he made Milestone Media, which was a company that he had a lot of these heroes for before they got purchased by DC, was to really give what he considered underrepresented minorities like representation in comics. But he didn't want to just make characters that look like certain groups of people because he knew that'd be lazy. Like, that's been done before. What he wanted to do was make them diverse. He wanted to make sure that even if you have 3 different black heroes or black villains, they're not handling things the same exact way. It's not just diversity by like skin color. It's diversity by the way you think. He actually said one time that his characters have problems that you can't just punch or blast away. Like you name like racism, anti-Semitism, and just common everyday problems. So even like the isms aren't always the issue with them. It's complicated issues that he wanted to make sure that these nuanced characters could deal with every day. And I'm hoping you understand that that's something that going forward with other videos, I want you to get from this, is that we want nuanced characters. Whatever character you like, it should be. He also made note that a lot of minority characters are expected to be like an avatar for their whole race. Like this is like this black character should represent all black people. And it's like, Superman is, he's not all white people. Like he's technically like, a Midwestern dude. And that's okay. So just like the rest of the heroes can be diverse, black heroes, Asian heroes, Latino heroes, the whole spectrum should be just as diverse. Okay? So, yeah, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I just wanted to kind of share that with you. I thought Dwayne McDuffie was awesome. And yes, so until the next video, please, into the nerd.